Have you ever felt invisible, like a shadow in your own life story, watching others take the lead while you stand in the wings? Have you ever looked at the world, at the towering figures of history, and thought, they were born for greatness? I was born for this? If you have, then I want you to journey back with me, back over 2,000 years, to the sun-drenched lands of ancient Egypt, to a city of learning and light called Alexandria. And I want you to meet a young woman who knows that feeling of invisibility all too well. Her name is Cleopatra, but before she was a queen, before her name echoed through eternity, before she commanded armies and charmed emperors, she was a girl in a library, and she was a nobody. In the royal palace of the Ptolemies, power was a loud and brutal game. Cleopatra's father, the pharaoh, was consumed by the threat of Rome. Her older sister, Berenice, was ambitious and ruthless, seizing the throne while their father was away. In this world of shouted commands and clashing swords, young Cleopatra was quiet. She wasn't seen as a threat or even as a player. She was the third child, the clever girl who preferred the silent company of scrolls to the noise of the royal court. Her escape was the great library of Alexandria, the intellectual heart of the world. While others learned the art of the sword, she learned the art of the mind. She didn't just read, she devoured knowledge. She learned the languages of her subjects, of her allies, and of her enemies. She studied mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and the histories of great leaders who had come before her. Her only real mentor was an old, wise librarian named Theon. He had seen generations of royals come and go. One afternoon, he found her staring out a window, watching the Roman banners fluttering on the ships in the harbor. "They see me as just another princess, Theon," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "A pawn on a chessboard. A future wife for one of my younger brothers, to be used and forgotten." Theon smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He pointed not to the window, but to the thousands of scrolls that surrounded them. "They see a pawn," he said gently. "And what do you see when you look in the mirror? The world will always try to give you a role to play, my child. It is the easiest thing to accept the part you are given. But true power is not in the role, but in the one who writes the script." He tapped a scroll, detailing the strategies of Alexander the Great. He was not born an emperor of the world. He was a boy from Macedonia with a vision. "This," he said, tapping her forehead, "this mind of yours is not made for the shadows. It was forged to command the light. Stop seeing yourself as the pawn, Cleopatra. Start seeing yourself as the player. The only one who truly matters on the board." That conversation planted a seed. For every time she was overlooked, for every dismissive glance she received at court, she retreated back to her library, not in defeat, but to sharpen her greatest weapon, her mind. She realized that while her sister fought for power with force, true, lasting power came from understanding people, from diplomacy, from being 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. The world saw a quiet girl, but inside, a queen was being forged. Her moment came in the cruelest way. Her father, with the help of Rome, reclaimed his throne and had her ambitious sister executed. The court was a nest of vipers, and when her father finally died, the throne was left to her and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. She was just 18. Her brother's advisors saw her as the same quiet girl from the library, a puppet they could control. They underestimated her. They whispered in her brother's ear, turned him against her, and used his name to strip her of her power. They cast her out, exiled. Here is where the story could have ended. Here is the moment where so many of us give up, when the world you knew slams the door in your face. Standing on the edge of the vast, unforgiving desert, with nothing but a handful of loyal followers, Cleopatra was, by all accounts, a failure, a deposed princess, a nobody, all over again. And in that moment of absolute nothingness, she found everything. Theon's words came back to her. Start seeing yourself as the player. This was not an end. This was an opportunity. Away from the palace vipers, she was free. She didn't weep. She didn't despair. She began to plan. She used her knowledge of languages and cultures to raise a mercenary army. She was no longer just a scholar. She was becoming a leader. She knew her small army was no match for the forces in Alexandria, who were backed by the might of Rome. And so, she decided to do the unthinkable. If Rome was the greatest power in the world, she would not fight it. She would go to its heart. She would make its most powerful man her ally. Julius Caesar had arrived in Alexandria. He was locked in the palace, surrounded by her brother's forces. There was no way to get to him. Her brother's spies were everywhere. To be seen was to be killed. This is the moment for every woman who has ever been told it's impossible. The moment when every door is locked and every path is blocked. What do? Do you turn back? Cleopatra looked at the locked doors and the guarded walls, and she decided to create a new path. A path no one would ever see coming. This is the part of her story that has become a legend, but I want you to see it for what it truly was. It was not a desperate plea. It was not the act of a damsel in distress. It was the masterstroke of a brilliant strategist. She couldn't fight her way in with swords, so she fought her way in with her mind. She arranged for a merchant to deliver a gift to Caesar, a large, beautiful, expensive rug. Her guards were horrified. A rug? At a time like this? But Cleopatra, with a quiet confidence that unnerved them all, simply smiled. She was then rolled up inside that very rug, carried like common cargo, past her brother's guards, right into the private chambers of Julius Caesar himself. Imagine that moment. The guards laughing at the strange merchant with his heavy carpet. And then, inside the palace, the rug is unrolled at the feet of the most powerful man in the world. And it is not a supplicant who emerges, covered in dust and humiliation. It is a queen, poised, intelligent, and in complete command. She did not beg. She spoke to Caesar not as a refugee, but as an equal. She spoke in his language, debated politics and military strategy, and laid out a vision for an alliance that would benefit them both. He was captivated not just by her presence, but by the sheer audacity and genius of her mind. In that one brilliant move, she had outsmarted them all. She had turned her weakness, her inability to enter the palace, into her greatest strength. She regained her throne. But more than that, she proved to the world, and more importantly to herself, that she was never a nobody. The power was within her all along. It was in the long hours spent in the library. It was in the courage to believe in herself when no one else did. It was in the audacity to roll herself up in a carpet and present herself to destiny. So, I ask you today, what is your library? What knowledge, what skill, what passion can you devour that will become your secret weapon? What is your exile? What setback in your life can you reframe, not as a defeat, but as an opportunity to become stronger, smarter, and freer. And most importantly, what is your carpet? What bold, unconventional, audacious move can you make that no one will see coming? A move that will take you past the guards of self-doubt and the walls of other people's expectations and place you right at the feet of your own destiny. Your beginning does not define you. The opinions of others do not define you. Inside every woman who feels like a nobody is a Cleopatra waiting to be unrolled. She is a strategist, a leader, a survivor. Find her, free her, and let her reign.